So hello there, I wanted to make a video about skill floor and skill ceiling. The skill floor is really simple, is how you use your abilities, right? Mordekaiser would be a really simple floor champion, right? You just do something like this, right? Maybe you press your ult, something like this, right? Then you use your W when it's stacked up, of course, right? And this kind of gives like a simplicity to the champion, right? But there is like a trick on every single champion, right? So, for example, even as Mordekaiser, there are some tricks you can follow up. For example, you can do this. I messed it up already. But you can do this. Fuck, I messed it up again. So you can basically do this. And why would you do this though? The question is, why wouldn't you EQ up front instead of trying to pull the champion in behind you and because here's the thing, there are some champions like Fiora, she has a parry and she has a dash as well, right? Or there are some champions that have a short dash like Aatrox or what have you, right? So here's the thing, if you EQ at the same time and they dash or they use some type of counter attack, you lose two abilities. But if you do this and you Q backwards, then you're gonna lose only one, right? Because the only time you're gonna Q is when, if you see with your own eyes, for example, you E, right? And you see with your own eyes that Aatrox eat forward to Q or eat sideways, right? So when you see that the enemy champion is in your E, depends on the position you are. For example, if you position in front of the enemy champion, it's always gonna arrive behind you, right? Like this, it's like behind you, right? So then you need to Q backwards. So if you see they are caught in your Q, in your E, depending on the distance. For example, if you are close to the enemy champion, it's bad to do this, because if it's dodged, your E is dodged, then you don't get value out of your Q, right? So in general, what you want to do, first of all, you want to observe if your E pulls at first, right? You don't want to rush it, you need to observe if your E pulls, and if it does pull, right, then you should E, right? But you need to observe it first of all, if that Aatrox, for example, E's away. Now, another cool thing, right? On Mordekaiser, you can use your E offensively to pull, right? To pull people towards you, right? But you can also do something like this on top lane for short trades, right? You can, like, let's say Q from a long range auto, and if you don't win a long trade, then you can eat the enemy champion backwards. So then you can finish your short trade without getting out traded, right? You can also, for example, if you're trying to commit for an all-in, you shouldn't use your W when you have a low amount of armor. You should use it when it's fully stacked, because then you can get more value out of it in an all-in, right? You want to do something like this, you want a W, right? And then you get more shield value. But for example, if you do it reverse, you use your W at a smaller amount of shield, it means you're gonna get less value out of your W in an all-in, because you shouldn't use it as a rotation ability. You should use it as as properly as possible in an all-in, right? Now, items also change the flow of a matchup. For example, if you have a Zhonye, then the Tryndamere matchup can get way easier, you know, as a second, third item, right? You can also get Riftmaker. Protobelt is also a considerable option, so a champion is not always about like look how skilled I am at my champion. It's about having a good decision taking of what do I build. In some games on bot lane you can even rush Rally's Crystal Scepter, right? In some games you can get Riftmaker if you choose, right? Some games you can go Rift into Demonic, but in some games you can get Nashor Tooth, right? In some games you can get Rally second or Zhonye second, right? It all depends on what kind of game you are and what provides you more value. So knowing how to itemize is also a bonus point to Mordekaiser, because some items can be 1v1 winning items and 1v1 losing items, right? Or game winning and game losing items, right? So your itemization needs to be at point. It depends what do you value. For example, Demonic Embrace deals HP based damage, grants ability power, tankiness, really good item, definitely a great item, and it's especially good against really high HP champions like Cho'Gath, Sion, extremely good against those type of champions, right? Now, what does Nashor Tooth provide? Nashor Tooth is also great against squishier champions, and when it comes to split pushing, right? Because this provides a lot of split pushing power, right? Now, Zhonye is good against champions like Tryndamere, against strong all-in champs, provides armor, cooldown, really great, activatable, right? Now, what else do we have here? Anti-heal. It procs on your E if you can hit your E. So definitely at some point you can get a Tormail if you choose to be more tanky. Depends what your team values or needs. This is also good against high AD, against comps that they have a lot of AD champs and crit champs. Really great item. Rabadon. At some point you can also get a Rabadon or a Void Staff if you prefer having some type of penetration. right? So your itemizations definitely matter on every single champion, and your rune choices, of course. Now on Mordekaiser is a bit one-sided. You're mostly gonna get Conqueror. I don't feel like there is anything better that fits his style. I don't think so there is anything that's like remotely better, right? So your general option is mostly one-sided Conqueror. That's all I know on Mordekaiser, right? Now what else is there to know? Your all-in angles with flash, right? Flash Q is a thing, right? You can also flash Q like this. Oops, I messed it up actually, right? Hey, why does it hit the dummy when I flash away? I think this is a bug, no? Why does it... I think this is a bug, or maybe I was hitting it still. It's some type of, yeah, it's kind of bugged on this one, right? So it's important to know your flash combos. You can even ult flash, so you can dodge something meantime you're in your ult animation, right? You can also go for some type of style points. Look, so let's wait until my ultimate expires, right? I ult and I flash through him, then the Shadow Realm is behind him, and what does that mean? He has less space to escape this side, and he needs to go inner, right? And when is this important to do? So if you can aim the enemy champion, that's totally fine as well, right? But you want to place the enemy champion in a more so awkward spot where he has less space to escape outer, right? So for example, here's the enemy champion, right? It's quite big. He has a lot of space to run away, right? But what if we do something like let's wait a bit. Something like this. Then again, we are behind him. Then again, he still has a lot of space. So then again, something went wrong, right? We need to be behind him and not in front of him, right? And then again, he has a lot of space. So I think again I fucked up something. So there was some type of I think I messed up something again, right? So yeah, I think I did indeed mess up something, right? So I think the combo was something like this, right? So then again, wait, I messed it up again. Okay, something is wrong with this. Messed it up again. I think I mistimed my ult. So we ult like this, no? Yeah, so now we got it correctly, right? And the reason why we ult like this, because the enemy champion has less space to escape. They barely have any space. And also, if he tries to escape downwards, there is a tower, so he can go under our tower, right? That's also an awkward spot to run. So then the enemy champion does not have too much space to actually run away from you, especially good against tanky champs, right? Now what else is there to know? Your E, you can generally use it to check bushes before you face check them, because it reveals the bush, then you can ward it, right? If you can afford to do so, right? Now what else is there to explain on Mordekaiser? Per level you get more and more speed out of this, which allows you to run down your opponent more easily with more speed. It's definitely great. And also the bonus movement speed is quite important in some matchups, right? And in some matchups you don't want to auto attack, you just want to walk around, right? So you can dodge more easily, more smoothly a Darius Q, for example, or a Yon Q. So in some matchups you want to procure passive, but you don't want to auto attack, you want to move. So Yon doesn't get to get his Q, then stack up his tornado, then escape you, right? So there is like definitely some type of sidestepping mechanics you can go for, right? Instead of like perma autoing. Because if you perma auto and you stay in the front line, right? In a straight line, it means that you give a really easy opportunity for the enemy champion to use his abilities on you, to trade back, or to CC you in some form, which also can mean that how's it called? Also can mean that they get to disengage. And now there are some matchup specific things you can also do. For example, none of your abilities are cancelable. Nothing is cancelable except your ultimate by some things, of course, right? By certain champs, specific champs, right? So, for example, if someone dashes on you, like a Shen, you can reactively E him. So he can't ult him, not E him, but you can also E him, of course. You can ult him, so if the enemy jungler is also collapsing with a CC, and then the enemy jungler just kills you with him, right? Because you got chain CC'd, then you can ult him in midair, right? You can ult him in midair, which means he will be stuck with you without the enemy jungler, which is also a great play to go for. Now another thing, if a Jarvan EQs you, you can also ult him, which in general again means that I'm getting a lot of texts. So in general that also means that they have less space to kill you. Now there is another combo. If someone dashes towards you like a Shen with a taunt, right, you can also use your E. If you want to predict it, of course, you can use your E and then like Q behind you, right? So you can prepare like two abilities. So there are some things to predict even as Mordekaiser. The same thing if Camille is ever queuing a minion and she walks upwards or downwards, Depends, if she has space to walk exactly out of your queue, then don't queue. But if a Kami level queues a minion, she goes upwards or downwards, but they never really stay in a straight line for you, right? Because they get the movement speed burst as well to queue them. So you shouldn't queue like this. You should queue something like this. You should use it a bit predictively, right? And often you need to predict with your queue, because otherwise it's likely it won't hit, because it takes some time until it generally goes off. So predicting is quite important against champions, that you observe that they always sidestep up or down, but you can also look for patterns. For example, if you step up, you are not in Q range, they are not sidestepping, but you step up in Q range, and you see as soon as you step up in Q range, they are walking downwards, then aim to Q downwards, right? Not only upwards, right? Now what else is to talk about? Often the people are pushing in a wave, and if you are capable to 1v2 the enemy top laner or jungler, or ult one of them because you're ahead on the curve, right, and kill them, then most likely they won't try to contest the enemy camps, which means you can steal these camps. Mordekaiser is extremely good at stealing camps, because, I mean, if you have more AP, right, because of his passive itself, it provides a lot of damage towards these monster camps. You can proc it on them really easily, clear them out really easily, which also sets behind the enemy jungler and puts yourself in a better spot, right? Also, on these reps you can instantly proc it by using your Q or E, right? You can instantly proc it. I don't know why did I auto it, but that's another thing to understand. Same thing as Mordekaiser. You can take Scuttle Scrub really easily after shoving. If the enemy jungler can beat you in a 1v1 and you shoved your top lane because you were lane dominant, you don't want to go for the cheaters. If your jungler is not around, you may just secure the Scuttle Scrub from the enemy jungler, or zone him away until your jungler arrives to kill him, or to get the Scuttle Scrub for yourself, because he will leave the area. And also as Mordekaiser, often you want to hover objectives, because if the enemy champion is not something like Jarvan or Olaf, they can of course cancel your ultimate. Then you can just ult them, and just because you are in here, your presence, right, this allows them from trying to contest objectives if they don't have QSS. And more than often in solo queue games, junglers almost never get QSS against Mordekaiser. And what does that mean? For 7 seconds you will keep hostage the enemy champion from the Baron itself, which means they can smite. So often you should rotate as Mordekaiser to objectives, just because how your ultimate works. When the Drake is getting at 2k HP, right, 2k, 1k HP, right, you should ult the enemy jungler, even if you don't kill him. It's all about killing him. Like, I don't care if you don't kill the enemy jungler. Your point is to ult him, so we 100% secure the objective. Now there are some specific examples where you don't want to ult. For example, they have an enemy Udyr, and there is no way for Udyr with Ghost, right? There is no way for Udyr to get through to the Baron pit or the Drake pit unless he has a Blast Cone. So if you have vision on him, he doesn't place with Flash on Udyr, they don't have a Bard or a Tahm-Kench, then he has no way to get into the pit, so you shouldn't ult, right? If he has no way to get into the pit, right, then you can just guard the other side, right? Because the only way Udyr tries to get in is not by going through a wall, but by walking around, right? That's also a thing to 100% consider. And I think these are the few things to consider. Of course, there's like the jungler clear to know on Mordekaiser. I think there are other things as well on how to use your proto belt in all-ins, because most of the Mordekaisers autopilot into getting Riftmaker every game. In some games you need to get proto belt, of course. Circ shoes are also really good to one-shot people. Definitely recommended, even by a Master Plus player said it's definitely great on Mordekaiser, especially on Mordebot, right? And in most of the matchups on top lane, you want to get Ignite or Ghost, you need to win your matchup with Mordekaiser. It's not great if you really go even with this champion, although his even scaling is not that bad, but definitely you need to win your matchup, because this champion is not really consistent, right? So that's like one of the issues, right? That's it for now. Have a nice